Well, it's always a pleasure to interact with Mr. Chhatwal to talk about which way the hotel industry is moving, the future of Indian hotels, and what kind of, what essentially is going to be the big picture view when it comes to the hotel industry and the tourism sector. Now, before I start the interview, I'm just going to take the clock back. When it comes to our corporate interviews, we always like to take the clock forward rather than back, but I like to take it back. Indian Hotel has been a success story. It has been a story where grit and survival was its theme, and customer satisfaction is, I think, right at the core. It's a story where Mr. Chhatwal has managed to really navigate the ship at a tough time like COVID, and today, from being an ugly duckling, Indian Hotel has actually become the darling of the stock markets. Everyone is just saying that, okay, what else can you do? How can you surprise us? So how can the management of Indian Hotel surprise us after 7 or 8 quarters of a pleasant delight?
Yeah, thank you, Nikunj. This is 6th consecutive record quarter. And so the last quarter was the same, better than the Q2 last year. And I think we are on a good wicket. As World Cup is going on, let's use some cricket terminology. It's a good wicket, and it's a wicket to play on the front foot.
Okay, you are playing on the front foot, but the problem is that the pitch can still be challenging. And the challenging pitch essentially is the environment. The corporates we've spoken to of late, they are of the view that just when they were ready to accelerate, global macro concerns have come back, especially for the tourism sector, especially for the travel sector. Could that be a disruptive factor in your peak quarter, which is the current quarter?
I don't think so. I think what we have to do is avoid unforced errors, and you can still bat on the front foot. And very importantly, I think there are always macroeconomic factors, which is geopolitical in nature, which is a pandemic like we had. Something will keep happening, and will keep happening at a very consistent pace. But our change in the business model has helped us do a couple of things. One is we have created new businesses which are significantly higher margin and no capital investment, like the Ginger, Ama, Cumin. And we have used comprehensive asset management to reposition our iconic assets, not just only for being iconic, but to create more and more profitability on a per square foot basis. So our renovated Taj Mansingh today is extremely well positioned to do as well as it did before the extension of the lease, which came at a very high terms or at very difficult terms. Our ongoing renovation in Land's End, our addition of private membership club. Last week we opened the Chambers in West End. We renovated the one in Land's End. In our flagship, the Chambers will start undergoing renovations in a few months from now. So Chambers is an example of high margin businesses, and iconic assets like Taj Land's End today has an auditorium called Spectra for viewing of movies, for watching World Cup, booking birthday parties for kids. So I think all these factors, instead of saying you are asset heavy, wow, asset heavy is an opportunity, because you decide what can be done with your asset, and as long as you're not making unforced errors, as I said, is well thought through, well calculated, all these assets, the absolute returns would keep going higher and higher.
So let me rephrase my next question rather carefully, and I'm going to take a leaf from what you've been indicating to our viewers and to our shareholders, that you expect that the uptrend in the hotel cycle could be a multi-year trend. So if I say for next 3 to 4 years or 4 to 5 years, the occupancy rate could be in double digit, the room additional rate hike could be in double digit, but the capacity addition would be in single digit. Will that be a fair assessment?
I think you have very carefully articulated that, to use your words. I think that's absolutely right, because I've gone on record saying the investment of the government in infrastructure has a positive correlation with the demand in hospitality. Be it roads, be it high-speed trains, be it 80 new airports, all these new demand generators, when they come in the market, they'll fuel growth in supply, but in new markets. Whereas the old, robust top 10 markets will see not that much increase in supply. At the same time, among the old robust markets, your number one market is Mumbai. Number two is Delhi or Goa. But look at what has happened in Delhi with the addition of Bharat Mandapam in Pragati Maidan, with the addition of Yashobhoomi in Dwarka, with the addition of Jio in Mumbai. Whenever any event happens, let's forget G20, that was like, let's say, a one-off. Whenever any major event happens, which can host up to 3,000, 4,000 people in a single hall, under a single roof, what kind of demand it will create in that city? And are we well positioned on the supply side to cope up with the demand? In the short term, the answer is no. So I think there will be events that will keep happening thanks to this new infrastructure. The second is the consumer shift in behavior. You know, a lot of people are now driving themselves on extended weekend. And that is a trend that emerged post-COVID. So I think that is giving additional domestic boost in terms of occupancy and revenue. The third very important factor is that our GDP growth is at 6.5, and with a bit of luck, if it could go higher, that would create higher per capita income, which would increase the discretionary spend, which will obviously go to the restaurants and hospitality or airline sector, and we hope to be, or other luxury good items, but we are a part of that beneficiary group, and all the gurus and the pundits, they say that India is expected to grow the fastest till 2030 for sure, or maybe for several decades to come. So I think that has a direct correlation with average rates, with hospitality rates, occupancies, etc. And I think for the first time, it took 70, 75 years. There was a little period of 2004 to 7 where hospitality was in a good space, but now since last 6 quarters and for several quarters to come, I think the hospitality sector stands in a very good space, and we being the largest in India in this space should benefit the most.
So 2-3 years, the cycle is looking good and great. That would be a message to our viewers.
No, longer. This is not a 2-3 years. We are already 1.5 years in the cycle, but because of the demand and supply situation, I think this is going to be longer, as during COVID, not many new hotels went under construction. Whatever has happened post-COVID or is happening is the completion of what had already commenced. And I think there is a new order that will come in terms of supply, in terms of consolidation, which keeps happening, is not anything new. It keeps happening all across the globe. It will also happen in India. And because of that, this time, the cyclicality will still be there in the business, but the length of the cycle should be much longer than another 2-3 years.
Fantastic. Now, the current quarter, which is the October, November, December quarter, is always the bumper quarter. And I distinctly remember that when you came out with your numbers, I think it was the budget day, and the numbers were completely out of the park. It's like saying that आपने 6 मारा था, Yorker पे 6 मारा था. So assuming that what you've delivered for the quarter gone by, 20% plus growth, almost 20% growth on a standalone basis, 15-16% growth on a consolidated basis, are we in for another bumper Q3?
Well, the good news is today being almost the end of October, we have had an unusually strong October.
Unusually strong.
And
what is your definition of unusually strong?
Top line growth, which is high double digits, 10, 12, 14, 15, 16. No, we're talking more like a closer to 20% growth across the sector. It was wearing my other hat as the president of Hotel Association of India. We do have these discussions in which direction the sector is going. So October has been strong because of the way Diwali is this year. It's almost in the middle of next month, so 5 days before Diwali and 5 days post Diwali. Usually the business slows down.
Okay.
But when we look at the pickup trends and how we are picking up business on the books, it is as strong as last year. So that means November, if it holds on like this, and October is very strong, then I do believe that we are in for a very positive Q3, far more positive. Let me put it straight, far more positive than we saw last year.
Okay, is 30%?
Weddings are not going away.
Yes.
Till 19th of November, World Cup is not going away. Christmas is still going to come. New Year is still going to come. Other festivals in other religions are also going to come. So I think we are in for a very good Q3 too.
Perception in the market is that, okay, the hotel industry just about got lucky because there was G20, there was World Cup. Next year there would be elections, which means that there could be delay in decision making. Big events obviously will not be there in and around election. Is that a concern? Is that a valid risk?
Not really. I think it's very difficult for people to believe because of the volatility in the business that this could be a sustainable, profitable business. I think that's the real concern, right?
Because you've never seen such a long good period. अच्छे दिन इतने लंबे देखे ही नहीं.
देखिए नहीं. So when the landscape changes and you are well positioned to take benefit of that change, I think most important is to recognize those macroeconomic factors that could positively influence the sector. And I've always said it, I still maintain the demographic dividend of India stands to benefit immensely if this sector keeps booming, the tourism, the hospitality, the aviation, because the direct jobs and the indirect jobs, the multiplicator impact of jobs is significant. Elections can come and go. I think it's good for the country and is good for everyone to have employment. And the more the people are getting employed, the higher will be the GDP growth, the higher will be the spend locally in the economy. And definitely, we are in that very good space. Of course, there'll be some headwinds. Of course, there'll be like a warning call came from US for travel outside of the US, right? It'll come and it will go. It is not going to stay long. I always used to give an example when I was living outside of India, 9/11, and I was working for an American company. When I used to travel to the US, planes were empty. So you could have all the possible seats that you wanted to have. It was the next time I saw that was in COVID. And it took a few years for the sector to bounce back because people were worried as planes could hit World Trade Center, right? And you had no chance of survival. Then came the Madrid bombing, then came the London bombing. Then every time the impact kept getting as bad as it is, it kept getting shorter and shorter, and it became restricted to a few days. So unless there is a kind of a black swan event, I think these headwinds will come, but they will also go away quickly.
Let me put the maths here. Now, you shared a vision statement of 2025. If I put the maths, if I look at the margins, the growth, looks like you are 1 year, you would be 1 year ahead to achieve whatever you indicated for 2025. Simple maths, margins, outlook, growth.
I wish everything would work on maths. So mathematically speaking, yes, that would be right. But practically speaking, something unknown keeps happening. So that's why we give a guidance over a business cycle. I think for a company that used to do on an average between 2008 to 17, 13, 14% margin, if we achieve 33%.
Is 30 the normal now for Indian hotels?
I think so. It's not because we are not focused on just one brand and one business. It's several brands, several businesses, and as I said, comprehensive asset management and the new ones driving the margin growth.
There's a time when we were asking you questions on your debt. Now that cash flow and free cash flow has started generating, the next question would be dividend and buybacks. I mean, I'm so happy that I'm asking this question. I mean, who would have thought that, Indian hotels potentially could have a balance sheet where the dividend could go higher and buyback could increase. You're already buying subsidiaries. I can see that. Could that be a path on which you would walk now?
We'll remain guided by the board. We'll have those discussions. I think the first half of the year is very different than the second half. Always, traditionally, the second half has been the strongest. And if the Q3 goes as you and I just discussed now, we will have a variety of discussions. It could be in organic growth, it could be on dividend policy, it could be on, simplification. Anything is possible. If you have the positioning and if you have the cash, of course, you can go for, as I said, avoid unforced errors, be opportunistic, make use of the capital you have, make use of the balance sheet you have, and that would come, if that was to come, would come over and above the guidance that we have given of opening 2 hotels every month. So that is like opening 70 plus hotels over next 3 years. And these are all which are already signed, legally announced, declared, and are happening as we speak.
So for next 1 year, irrespective of the election cycle, your view is that for Indian hotels and for the hotel industry, the pricing power and the demand trend will remain intact. But for Indian hotel now to take a giant leap, not just a small baby step forward. The internal repair of the balance sheet has happened. You made your company asset light. New businesses are getting incubated. But given that the Tata Group per se is now coming back in growth mode, how would you define growth from here?
Well, growth is not one dimension only. It's not just in the number of dots on the map. Yeah. I think, as our chairman would define it, one thing which Indian hotels should never forget is the normal growth which we are doing, the organic growth, and adding assets all across India, 125 plus cities, with opportunistic growth, with management contracts outside of India with the Taj brand. Very strong focus on the Indian subcontinent. That means, Sri Lanka, Nepal, Bangladesh, where we also recently announced 2 hotels in Dhaka. All this will remain important, but the signature assets is the term he used, which I really like, is something that made our backbone, which is the Taj, an iconic brand. Mm-hmm. And we should not lose sight in an upcycle like we are in today and a down cycle in the rest of the world to take advantage if anything comes up and get into strategic partnerships, not into single asset acquisitions, but more using an institutional investor as a strategic partner to enter into operating leases on the European continent or in Southeast Asian markets like Singapore, which really deserve a Taj. We're opening a Bombay Brasserie end of November or 1st or 2nd of December in Singapore. It's a standalone, but that's a start. We actually need to have the Taj brand present there too.
Any new formats you would be experimenting with? Cumin was a format, Ama was a format, Chamber, frankly, it's an old format, but you've created a new platform format. Any new formats you would be looking at launching?
Yes, we would be. Actually, Taj as a brand has exceeded 100 properties. Ginger is getting close to 100. And we always guided and said that once a few of our brands cross the 100 band, it will be time for us to look into new opportunities of either acquiring a brand or creating a new brand ourselves. Like we started a platform on selections, like we started Ama or Cumin. I think there is definitely space between Vivanta and Taj, or a Vivanta and Ginger, and also maybe, the ultra luxury brand, but that would not have the scale. So I think we are exploring all those opportunities. Within 3 to 6 months, we'll be able to talk more about it.
What could be ultra luxury for you? Everyone is saying Taj is luxury. What is ultra luxury?
Taj is in different spaces. Taj Palaces is ultra luxury. Okay. Taj Safaris is ultra luxury. But if you wanted to have maybe something futuristic, even higher than that, then pushing 100 hotels to that band level would be an unforced error, because you're trying to put so much money, making it come to that level. So I think if there was an opportunity to have those 3, 4, 5 assets only in the world, but they create that image, yes, we will seriously explore, discuss with our board and the management team. But definitely we need something between Vivanta and Taj. That is for sure. Whether we do it on a all-inclusive basis because the resorts are gaining so much traction, or we just do it as another brand for all kinds of travelers, whether business or leisure, that is something which needs to be explored.
Okay. When the industry started opening again post the lockdown, the consumer was was not happy to pay that kind of a room tariff. 2021, 2022, it was all about, okay, hotel rates are expensive. Hotels महंगे हैं. They are charging us a lot. But I don't see that narrative now. There is a big acceptability which has come in that, look, if tomato prices and onion prices will go higher, hotel rates will also go higher. You will have to pay for the service. Is there a mindset change what you were saying there? Because for a consumer, it's not pinching me now. I'm accepting it in my, planning.
There are two things, if you're using the word change, which I'll come to. There is always a resistance to change.
Of course.
But fortunately or unfortunately, change is the only constant in our lives. So we are very happy and pleased with this change.
And do you see this change will sustain?
No, some new change will come because change is the only constant.
So what is the new change then?
Maybe from our point of view, maybe even higher, like we are all traveling for a lot of reasons, personal or business, to rest of the world. And if you had to take an equivalent asset like a Taj Mahal Palace in Colaba or Taj Mansingh in Delhi, then you would still pay today 3-4 times higher. So I think if we could even achieve 40, 50 or double those rates in some of these iconic assets, that would have a direct correlation that yes, India is not just the fifth, it's actually moving towards the third largest economy.
So last but one question, let's use inflation as a benchmark. 5 to 6% inflation is something which is there in the economy. So can I say that on a blended basis for Indian hotels, the trend for room rates could actually be at least double that of inflation? Let's say 12 to 15% could be the average yield increase every year. 6% the inflation year.
On the total revenue, we should not ignore the fact in India that your rooms business is still, for a portfolio like us, less than 50% of the total revenue. And yes, for a company to have healthy business model and robust growth, an amount which is double than the inflation should be the revenue growth on the top line, whether it comes to rates, occupancies, weddings, F&B, restaurants, wherever it comes from, that is the kind of growth that is needed.
So if I have to understand where profitability is headed, I need to use 30% margin as the base.